Hey folks, welcome to the channel. Today's build is very important and I'm very passionate about it, and it has a special message. So I want you to listen to that message first before we get into it. This build is being called Project 22 because 22 veterans lose their lives to suicide every day. We've had one of our own in the knife maker community, Bob Rankin. His family's been affected by this because his son Robert unfortunately took his life recently. So we're doing this build as a donation for the family. This project is actually a collaboration from a few smiths, Paxton at 50/50 Forge, and Chad Kimmell at Summon & See Smithing did the Damascus for this project. So I'll be taking that Damascus and making a knife set. I've also got some very special material that's going to go into the handle material as well as the pins. And I'll tell you about that more when we get closer. So let's go down and take a look at this steel, which by the way has a piece of Tower 2 from the World Trade Center inside this Damascus. And it's 22 layers to represent Project 22. Let's go take a look.
Here's a little montage of Paxton and Chad making the steel.
One more thing, please stay tuned to the end where you can find out how you can get involved and also have a chance to own these knives that you'll see in this build.
So I just got the steel from Chad and Paxton. It is about a 1/4 inch thick and it's really long. We're at almost 21 inches long. So we got a lot of steel. I'm under a time constraint, so I'm not going to be forging this. I'm going to be doing stock removal, and we'll see what their pattern looks like. What I'm thinking is something like this, and maybe another knife here, and make it a 2-piece set. I just got to see how I'm doing on time constraints. So we're going to cut this one out, get this one prepared, see how we're doing for time, and then maybe cut another one out of here and match the handles. So I'll keep that in mind when I'm picking the wood. Let's cut this out and get started.
I'd like to tell you a bit about Robert, or Bobby as most knew him. He joined the Navy right out of high school. Most of his career, he was a nuclear electronics technician. He served for 8.5 years and left the Navy this past April. He was just 27 years old when he took his own life on May 25th. Please stay tuned to the end where you can find out how you can purchase one of these stickers and be entered into a drawing to win these knives.
Here we are after profiling. The knives look pretty good. You can see just for scale there. And this is my first look. I just did a test etch, and this is my first look at the Damascus. And it's pretty cool. They did kind of layers. I'm going to call them waves. Since Robert was in the Navy, it's kind of like a wave Damascus, so that's what I'm going to call it. I think it looks really cool. I'm anxious to go to the next step. I think now I'm going to drill the holes in these, and I think I'm going to heat treat them now.
Well, it seems I forgot to turn the camera on for the actual quench, but yeah, these are hard. This is a 65 HRC file, and it is skating.
So here they are after heat treat. Everything went really well. I had a slight warp just on the handle portion right here of this one, but I corrected that in the temper. So these look really good. I'm really happy so far. So now I'm just going to take these back to the surface grinder, just clean them up, take any, decarb off the surface, probably test them on the HRC tester, then we'll put in the bevels.
Now I'm testing the hardness of these blades on the HRC tester.
Okay, these came out nice and hard, right around 59.5 HRC on both of them. I tested all along the edges, so it looks really good.
Now it's time to start putting in our bevels. Here I'm just going to mark a center line and then off to the grinder to start grinding.
So I'm done the grinding on these. Got them up to 400, and now they're going to get hand sanded. They're down to a very fine edge. They almost disappear at the edge. The edge is at about, I think about 10/1000ths of an inch right now, and it'll come down even further when it's sanded. So those look pretty good. Now we're going to turn our attention, before I do any of the hand sanding, to the handle. So the tang is going to be a tapered tang, meaning it's going to taper from here almost to nothing at the end. The way we're going to do this is on the surface grinder. We're going to, here you see there's a notch out of this. We're going to take the center one out and raise this so this thing is at an angle. If you want to make one of these yourself, I got a video. I'll put a link up in the corner. Let's go get it done. There we go. So pretty cool. Now it's time to do some hand sanding.
Before I start hand sanding, I just want to round off the spine a little bit. Because these are kitchen knives, I don't want it too sharp.
Okay, got the blades all sanded to 800. Now it's time to put my maker's mark in. I got some salt water here, battery charger. Let's go. So here it is, electro-etched. Okay, I'm done with the knives so far. I've got them fully sanded, my maker's mark in there. Now let's talk about pins. Before I get onto the handle, let's talk about the pins that are going to go in the handle. What are we going to use for those? Well, we're going to use part of this. What is that? That is a piece of arrestor cable from the USS Eisenhower. That's an aircraft carrier, and the arrestor cable is the cable that stops the planes as they land on the deck. So we're going to be using a strand of this, and we're going to forge it into some stock that we can use for the pins. The reason this is important and it matters is because Robert was US Navy, and I want something naval to be involved in these knives. So my son sent me this because he works on the USS Eisenhower, so we're going to incorporate part of it into these knives.
After I've heated the cable up to forge welding temperatures, I'm going to twist it a little bit just to take any air gaps or spaces out of the center. After twisting it a couple times, I'm pretty sure it's solid, and now we can go to the press and give it a few taps. This will consolidate it even more and make it a solid piece of steel. After rounding it off a bit in the press, I take it to the grinder just to make it kind of roundish, and now we're going to take it to the lathe and turn it to get our pin material. I wouldn't normally turn something down this much on the lathe to 3/16 thickness, but those are the thickness I need the pins, but it works out.
So here's the pin material after it came off the lathe. It's nice and straight, nice and smooth, so that worked out really well. I'll be cutting that up and we'll get going on the pins. So let's talk about the handle material. Part of the handle material is going to be this. This is a piece of white oak, which is from the last remaining tree that George Washington himself planted. This is from Lucas O'Hara at Grizzly Forge, who donated this wood. This tree was planted in 1780 on George Washington's Mount Vernon plantation. This tree fell in November of 2019, and it was cut up by the guys at Black Horse Forge. They donated some of this to Lucas for another project, and then Lucas gave some of the remaining to me for this project. This wood is just about as old as the United States. So very, very cool to have some actual wood from a tree that George Washington himself planted. So we're going to be using this as liner material because although it has some great history, it's not really that interesting. So what we're going to do is use it as liner on both knives. We'll thin it out a bit. And then we're going to put this beautiful blue tiger maple, which looks like waves and goes with the navy theme. And it should look amazing once it's polished. So it'll look like that on the knife. So I'm very excited to see what that looks like.
After grinding down the handle material a little bit, I sand it smooth and then glue it up and get ready to make scales out of it. I'm excited to see what these look like on the knife.
So I got the handle scales all glued up, sanded, flat, all even. So now the tricky part with the tapered tang is you can't just stack these up and drill them because there's a slight, obviously there's a slight difference between here, and if you just drill them through, then your pins won't fit. So you got to drill them one at a time and prop them up half the distance between here and here. So that's what this little shim is for.
Now that the holes are drilled, I can profile the handle scales a bit more. We're getting close to putting these on the handle. They're not glued in yet. I'm just using temporary pins here. They'll be going on soon. First we got to do the fronts of the handles because we won't be able to sand those later because they'll be too close to the blade. Now it's time to etch the Damascus. Here they're sitting in ferric chloride with just a bubbler to make it go quicker.
So here are the knives so far. I've already etched them, and you can see a little bit peeking out here. I've got the handles all glued up. Now I'm going to go cut the rest of the pins off and shape the handles. We're almost done.
Here's some beauty shots of the knives. Stay tuned to see how you can donate and perhaps own this set.
I'm really thrilled how this knife set turned out and proud to be part of this project. Now folks, it's time for your call to action. There's a link below to Bob's website where you can buy this sticker. Purchasing this sticker is really a donation to Bob's family, but also gets you an entry to win this knife set. So we'd like you to buy as many stickers as you can, give them to friends, help support Bob's family. The other way you can help support it is to share this video and share the link to Bob's website to as many people as you can. Thanks folks. I'm going to be sharpening these knives and doing a cut test, so stay tuned.